That'll be an interesting thing how it comes out, but that's Alex. Anyways, okay. We have 2 sets of minutes that were put out.
Yes. From, I believe, was it May or June and October?
I think they were June and October, yeah.
Yeah.
And they looked, I reviewed them, they looked good to me.
No, I think you have the May minutes, because I wasn't there for that meeting.
Oh, yes, you're right. Did I not send you those? I thought I had.
don't remember.
Okay, let me, I'll put that as a to-do.
And then the September ones, I can't find anywhere.
Really?
The 2024 ones.
Oh, 2024. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
So this year September we didn't have a quorum.
That's
so there's
right.
No minutes.
So that
but
doesn't
for
count,
last
right,
year,
okay.
I don't know where they are.
Right. Yeah. Not the end of the world, son. We were recorded.
I don't know if we were being recorded at that point.
I think we
Or
were.
2024. Okay, I'll check
I
on
think
YouTube.
we started getting recorded like the early 2024 when everything came forward. Yeah, so it's someplace on video. We could look in the records. So we have minutes of June and October 2025.
Yep.
Any motion to accept?
Second.
Any corrections? Oh. Any corrections? Everything good? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Good. So we have June, October. So do we still have April and May minutes of this year outstanding?
We approved the April minutes already, and
I
Adam
have
has
to
the
send-
May minutes.
Yeah, the May.
You have the May that you're gonna.
That's on me. Yeah,
that's fine.
I'll finalize it. I thought I'd already handled it, but I guess not.
You maybe did, and I just forgot.
I might
It's
not.
not a big
I might
deal.
not have. So I'll,
Okay,
I'll
that's
go
fine.
back and see.
Okay. Good. So we're only one set out. Good. Let's see. We're trying to finish up this committee for the May 2026 town meeting, which basically means by February, early March. Yeah, March at the latest, we should have all of our corrections that we want to put on the warrant finalized, because they need time to put that together. We can reserve spaces, but we need to have the wording no later than I would think by our March meeting. So, just for everybody's information. Updates. Anybody have any updates on anything?
Nope.
No. Okay, we better get moving on that. A new item just came up the other day. Mike Mason sent it out to Bill and myself that there's a couple of issues in a couple of places in town. One of them being up the road of night lighting, where it is businesses or places that have not gone through site plan approval have very bright lighting, night lights shining either onto their property, but it also ends up shining out onto the road, onto neighboring properties, and I don't know if they're on late at night or what the story is, but he's asked if we have a zone bylaw, what the options are to address that. And if a place has gone through site plan approval has specific wording on lighting, not to be intrusive, so on and so forth. But in some place that has not gone through site plan approval, even including a residence, and they have bright lighting that infringes onto neighboring properties or the highway, we have nothing. And I'm just wondering if this would not be a zone bylaw, this would be a general bylaw, if we decide, should we do something about that?
I tend to agree that we should, because LED lighting is getting to be pretty intense.
I mean,
even with neighbors,
I've got photo eyes all around my property on 3 sides of my house and the back of my shed, so that I have 4 areas lit up, and they're all on photo eyes. They're only like 3 minutes, so it's not a big deal.
Quick call.
But when they come on, I've got them positioned to shine on my property. I'm trying not to shine onto the neighbor's property. It's impossible. The silly things are so bright. And I'm not talking to somebody that put the night light on or a photo eye like I am for, 10 minutes. That's not a big deal. And it's also not late at night. But some of the places that are on all night long, I agree, they're lighting up their property, but it's almost impossible to light up your property depending where these lights are and not somehow infringe on your neighbor.
Are you talking about businesses or residences?
Both.
Both.
Okay.
Because the area that I'm talking about is right up the road.
Mm-hmm.
There, it's exempt from it's exempt from site plan approval, but they have lights for their security and for the vehicles in their yard. But it lights up and you can see it onto 47, and I want to say there's probably 4 residences around there, 5, and you go by there. I mean, I've never gone by there late at night, so I don't know if they're right on all night long. I can't say that. I'm not picking on them. I'm just using them as this is for a fact.
They're
You go-
very bright.
You go onto the neighboring properties, and even though this place has got to be 300 feet off of the road, plus the neighboring properties, it's pretty lit up, okay, and it shines the way these lights are. They shine, and they're you go by there, you drive down the road, and it's pretty bright when you're driving. I'll even use my property. When my front light is on my garage, my side light's not so bad, but when my front light is on a garage, it's lighting my driveway. But it's these, like Tim says, these LED lights are so bright, it's impossible not to see them from the road.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that not to use them by any means, because they're wonderful, they're energy efficient, all those other good things, but limit the time they can be on. Like I said, mine are on 3 to 10 minutes, depending what the setting is for the lights. Okay, so they're on, they're off, not a big deal. But if they're on all night long, especially if you've got a half a dozen of these on your property, whatever the number might be, and you're lighting your neighbor's properties, I mean, some people don't close their shades all day at night. And now you've got a house a room that's lit up even when it's dark.
Mhm.
And like I said, especially if you're driving down a road and these lights are infringing on your bright, you all of a sudden come to this bright light, it can be troublesome to the person driving. So, you want to look up and see if, I don't know if there's got to be something, other towns, we can't be alone in this. There's got to be other towns that might have
That
some.
are starting to look into it, yeah, because
Okay, so you look into some
I'll see
town
what I can
bylaws.
find.
Where is the line drawn, I guess, so I'll give you an example. I live right next to the senior center, and they keep the lights on in that parking lot all night long, and they're very bright. Obviously they want visibility, right, for anybody who's parking there, but after 10 or 11, like they're not
Those
even
are-
supposed to park there overnight. So I need blackout shades because it's so bright. But
Well,
like-
it's something that you can ask the planning board to look at, because they have very good regs in regards to
Yeah.
the lighting and
yeah,
the dispersion beyond the property line, because, we went through that many years ago, especially with Dick's. You could be going down Rocky Hill Road, and you turn that corner and it was like, woof, and that's Dick's Sporting Goods down at the mall. It was so bright
Yeah.
that it really got to be a major issue.
I-
So there was a lot of new changes on that.
yeah.
When Texas Roadhouse first moved in, is a good example.
Yeah.
They had that upper section illuminated, and it was so bright when you're driving down Route 9, like Tim says, I was like, whoa! It just hit you in the face.
You couldn't see the road.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and-
guess I'm saying this is an important issue, but it's a big one, right? Like,
Yeah.
you could
Well,
argue,
it's getting worse.
but like every business on Route 9 would be affected, right? And so I guess it's like, what's the line that we're drawing? Where is that line?
Well, if you look at the regulations in regards to the planning board, there's a whole section on there, and there's illumination
Okay.
with regard after the property line. So we used to walk at midnight, walk around with all the lights on with a meter and checked it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they keep on doing. They
Yeah, I don't know if
still
they've done it for a while, but one of the things that the planning board, like I said, if the place has gone through site plan approval,
It's
there's
regulated.
a means to address lighting.
Mhm.
Because the bylaw says, and they've agreed that their lighting at the property line should not exceed X.
Okay.
And if they do exceed X, then the zone enforcement officer, building inspector, can go around, check it, and go back to them and say, hey, you're, like we did with Texas Roadhouse. This was probably, had to be 6 months after they moved in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They
And
put
we
those
went back,
lights up.
I think it might even have been you.
Oh, yes.
And went back to Texas Roadhouse, told them what the problem was, and they were very they toned
most
their
of them.
lights down.
So
And so it's not as bright as it used to be. It's still bright, but at least it's not obtrusive, or
Yeah.
intrusive now.
okay.
And the same thing with other places. If the lighting is infringing on the neighbors, and when there's a residence is specifically near a business, that's where it becomes way more touchy. If you got business to business to business, and one company is brighter than the other, I mean, unless it's infringing on the road,
Yeah.
most businesses aren't going to complain that the lights are bright because it's good for everybody.
Yeah.
But if it's a residence nearby, like you are with a senior center, and if the senior center lights are bright at night and they bother the people living around there, then it should complain to
Yeah.
the town.
I guess my question is, what do we need? If planning board has regulations about this, why are we what do we need to do with bylaw that?
Because specifically, like I said, the lighting bylaw, the lighting issue is specific to site plan approval. It's not a general zone bylaw. So if the place has gone through site plan approval,
Okay.
and typically most businesses have, then the town has a means to go back to the business and say, you're not complying with your approval of
Got
site
it.
plan.
Okay.
But the place up the road has never gone through site plan approval because it's an agricultural place.
Okay.
Our
I see.
residence doesn't go through site plan approval. So that's why plus if you put something into the zone bylaw today
Mm-hmm.
to address it, all these places that exist are
Are exempt.
exempt, they're grandfathered.
But, go ahead.
So if you put it into the general bylaw, they're not exempted. So there's some legal things here that, I mean, you want to make it, you don't want to make it overly burdensome to anybody. You simply want to make it that, like the place up the road needs it for security and they need it for the vehicles that are using the place and so on and so forth. That's fine. So the lights stay on till, let's say, I don't know, 11 o'clock at night or whatever the number might be. And then from 11 to, say, 6 or 7 in the morning, or 5 or whatever the time might be, you can still have lighting, but you can't be as bright.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
So can we just borrow the planning board regulation language or lift most of that for a general bylaw? Is that
Probably
okay?
some of it.
Some of it,
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yes, some of it is also unique to, like, this one specifically mentions height, the kind of lighting. So height wouldn't necessarily be, because it's really about light poles. Most residences don't have light poles that are mounted to the building. So
Right.
we just gotta, like Tim says, we can use some of the language, but probably a better, an easier thing might be to look at what, I doubt we're going to be unique looking at this. I'm sure other towns, somebody's gotta have done
Well,
something.
it's gotten to be a big
And
issue.
find something that is maybe a bit more appropriate to use as opposed to we don't want something that's, 3 pages long, we want something that's
Yeah.
basic and succinct.
I
Got
feel
it.
like that could get tricky though because there's kind of different standards for how bright, is acceptable amount of brightness in different zones,
Yes.
which would then be, zoning related.
Yeah.
Like Route 9, I'm sure the tolerance for brightness is way higher than off, even just Rocky Hill Road.
Absolutely correct.
So I think
And
it
all the
might be
things
hard
we'd
to
have to,
set.
we'd have to,
Universal
yeah,
standards.
and I would guess that there may be, that's probably, I don't want to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking Tim, and looking at another town, and they probably do have something, especially in like a place like, I don't know,
It's actually been on the news lately. If you,
Because of
yes.
like light pollution, that sort of
Local,
thing, or
local news, and actually there was one on national news about lighting.
yeah.
yeah.
It's gotten to be problematic, and they brought up the
Yeah.
LED lighting. So you got lumens, which is
Yeah.
how bright the light is, and also you got this issue with I don't know the specific term, the brightness when you look at it, and we had that problem with one of the motels when we changed it. The lumens were fine,
Yes.
but the brightness.
And the way it illuminated, maybe the better way to say it.
It's it. So the planning board, and this is the good thing about over time, you start learning about certain specific things. So they asked the motel, can you put in something that looks more colonial type of light? And they, sure, that's what we want. So they had these lights, but they looked like gas lights. And it was, the lumens were fine. I couldn't do anything about it, but they were so bright when you couldn't drive up the road, the parking lot, because you looked at it, the intensity was terrible. So we modified it by putting, covers on, making sure that everything had covers to direct the lighting downward.
The historical commission loved these lights, and it was one of the first places we applied the lighting standard in the zone. And we're kind of a bit off the topic here. Zone bylaw, and they were very pretty lighted. They were like I said, they looked like a gas light, and they lit up the parking lot at night. But when you drove by, because the light went out sideways and not downward, you drove down Route 9. It's like, whoa, these things are bright. And
they actually had a person that drove right off the parking lot because it was so bright they couldn't see. So they, of course, changed everything.
And ever since then, that's why when almost every place that puts lights in now, they put in a shoebox style lighting. It's a box, however size they are.
And it's downdraft only.
Opaque top, opaque size, and only down lighting. And they serve the purpose, and they work really well because the light doesn't emanate out way to the side.
But this up here is wall lights and things like that. They're not downdraft lights. So it's going to be an issue.
So to Kayla's point, if we were to draft a general bylaw, I assume we need to have that bylaw reference zoning because of what Kayla was saying, that the
Well, you
amount
don't
of light.
reference zoning because general, you got to have everything specific within the general bylaw itself.
Okay.
So it's a difficult, right?
Yeah,
If
well,
they
I
write
guess
it
what I'm
properly.
struggling with what Jim was saying is, like, how do we make this bylaw succinct if there's a big difference between Route 9
Of course
and
there
ours?
is.
And so you may have to do it like Kyla said, it may have to be by zone. Now, just for very quick education here, the way the state law reads, this is a state, I don't know a state law, but more or less
Right.
court cases. A zone bylaw can be a bit general with intent, and the courts will use the intent as the reason to make their decision. Whereas a general bylaw has to be very succinct. It has to spell out A, B, C, D, and so on, and be precise. And if it's not precise, you're done. You can be, if you miss this little terminology, you could very well, and it goes to court, you could lose. Whereas a zone bylaw, if you miss that little terminology, well, the intent was there, and it's usually upheld. So that's why general, you don't want to reference a zone bylaw in general because it's got to be so specific, stuff like that. So you got to really, general bylaw has to be spelled out details.
Yeah. But I think we can write something,
Yeah.
and most people are going to abide by it if they know about it.
Yeah.
It's the problem is the LED lighting that's on all night long that shines into people's bedrooms when they're trying to sleep, just like yours. Most people put up blackout shades and call it a day. But you can't put, how about if you had skylights? And it's shining in through a skylight. Not all skylights have shades. You certainly can put them on, but if it's on all night long, I mean, it wakes you up. You can't sleep for a lot of people.
Yeah,
Especially the older you
I
get.
also think, not that this is something that bylaws get into, but there's also environmental
Yes.
I don't really see the need for a lot of places to have nights on all night long, or lights on all night long, especially if you don't have a motion sensor or something, like you're just.
Well, that's
lighting
why the planning board has regulations in regards to the time.
Yeah.
And yes, if you go down Route 9, 3 o'clock, most of the lights are off. I mean, there's just some subtle lights on. But yeah, it is something that can be regulated if you go down Route 9 and somebody's got them all on. And who's going to have them on most of the time? It's going to be the car dealerships. But it's just a process. You go back and say, hey, by the way, you've turned them on again, turn them down, and they'll follow the law for a while, and then they'll turn them back on.
Yeah, I mean, it is not going to be a perfect thing, but at least it's a start to try to address some of the concerns. And, and most of the time, you don't need a bylaw. If you go to the business and say, or a person, whatever, hey, can you tone this down? This is a problem. Many people
will,
or most people will, but you get the few obstinate people. Oh, I need that for whatever reason. Well, that's so.
But if you make the general bylaw as, like you said, environmental, light pollution, that the town has decided that light pollution is an issue that they want to address, you can do that, and that is a reason.
Yeah.
Is there any reason why you couldn't have this as part of the zone bylaw and not part of the site plan approval, like separate from the site plan approval requirements?
You can. We could have it as a separate zone bylaw, but like I said, if we make it a separate zone bylaw, anybody that is doing this today is grandfathered, because the zone bylaw is only effective today if you post it. So anybody that existing with these light issues today, we can't do anything about except ask them in a nice way.
Say, I had them on before,
Right.
so you can't get me.
So whereas the general bylaw, there's no grandfathering. There's a if you would, there's a grace period to comply, but ultimately, whatever the timing might be, and I don't know what that is. Okay, let's say it's 2 months. I don't know what the time is. Okay, as of today was passed, at this time in the future, you will comply. So.
It's like the line of sight bylaw that we had,
Yeah.
because, there was, why did we bring the line of sight bylaw up, is because a lot of people, it was problematic pulling out of side streets, they couldn't see up and down the roads because of bushes. So, the bushes have been there, and so the complaint is something that exists, so it had to be a general bylaw.
Yeah,
Got it.
That got into a very fuzzy area, because
Yes.
if I'll use my property as a pick on it, even though I'm not in a corner, which is good. But if my shrubs came out too far to the street, you couldn't see pulling out of my driveway.
Yep.
Well, chances are, if that's the case, my shrubs are planted on town property.
Yeah.
Now, does the town have the right to go and cut those shrubs down? It
Yes.
got into it, this,
Yeah. Okay.
you don't want to go there if you can. Okay, enough on lighting. Let's see. Where are we? I did not get a chance to talk to Mitch on the town common stuff. Mitch is kind of covering for the police chief, and I hate to bother him, but I'm going to have to, because I don't see the roles switching back to where they used to be anytime soon, because we're just so backed up with things in the town. Let's see. Rear front bylaw.
I think last time we talked about having that as a policy
Yes.
rather than a bylaw.
Right, yeah. That would probably be the best way to do that. We're gonna finish putting that together. And really nobody else got a chance to look at their things that they were working on, their assignments.
Been crazy.
I understand we're all.
I didn't have it then, so now I do.
Yeah. And you were
Want more?
working on animal
You want
control,
more?
right?
No.
No, you were working on
A noise.
Not with my
noise and
workload, I
the
don't.
wording of the various handicap stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean that stuff I had done like last year at some point, and I thought I had sent it to you, but so maybe I didn't. I don't know. Let me revisit my emails. But I think we finalized, and then I had also been working on the noise bylaw, which I thought that had been finalized too. Mitch had some amendments,
Okay.
which I had incorporated. Although
Yeah.
one of his,
Did
he
that.
had one thing that he wanted to change, which I kind of disagree with. It was about duration of sound, because I think like I'd have to go back to his comment, but I think basically it was just to do with like, I think there needs to be, you know, you might have, I don't know, like your smoke alarm might go off, right? That might be
Yeah.
loud. Maybe it annoys the neighbors, but it only goes off for 5 minutes. Like that's not really worth anybody's time enforcing. So I think I had said like 10 minutes or 15 minutes or something. Like if the noise persists for longer than that, that's when the bylaw is enforceable. And I think Mitch had wanted it not to be that. I think if I remember his comment correctly, he didn't want there to be a duration tied to it. But
That
I
would
think
be
there
very
needs to be.
difficult to enforce, because how do you know when it started
Yeah.
versus the time frame when you're there? So I agree with Mitch. You
I would-
don't want a time frame, because you as the enforcement officer has to show proof when it started.
Sure.
How do you do that? You can't. So it always gets thrown out. I can tell you verbatim that can happen when you go to court. I mean,
Okay.
Okay.
so you don't put that. It's just
Okay.
at the time the enforcement officer's there,
If it
and if
exceeds
it's
the level.
if it exceeds, and they don't turn it down, then they can go to the next.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I do agree
Okay.
with them.
So if you could please resend the noise bylaw and the changes you had to the stuff the section that dealt with the handicap wording, just so we can have that and get
Yeah.
that done, okay?
Yeah. It was just.
I know, just basically it's just some wording you're
It was
changing.
just a subsection of the sidewalk bylaw, in which I did go through and I had suggested a few minor amendments, but the main thing in there was just some
Yeah,
outdated language.
and that's fine.
Yeah,
that's
so
okay.
I can resend all of that.
Okay, please, okay, just to get that in one little package. And the rest of us, I know you had some stuff on conservation you were looking at, right?
That's not gonna be ready anytime soon.
That's
The
all-
wetlands, no, that's a whole project.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, so that's gonna be down the road for
Yeah.
some future time.
yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, but there's, just for everybody's information, the state is also trying to redraw the floodplain maps for Hadley, which will impact Lord knows how much stuff if it ever gets through. Conservation, zoning,
Everything.
I have building code, I have, we don't know how much it's going to impact because they're changing things and they're doing it. I don't want to get into politics, they're just doing it. Leave it at that.
Sure.
And some of the changes that they're proposing, we've talked about at planning board meeting, just for everybody's information, is that from our knowledge, the place never flooded in a 36 flood. And they're saying it's now in the flood zone. And trying to defend and argue that, it's like, well, the map says this, GPS says this, or whatever the elevations say. And
They're remapping.
this
Yeah.
is the mapping stuff,
they're
yeah.
remapping now, yeah.
And it's they started doing this. Josie and I went to the first meeting about 7 years ago, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And they're still working on it, but they seem to be getting closer to finalizing it. Leave it at that. So we'll have to see where that ends up. If it does, it's going to change. It's really the bad part about it, or the downside of it, what we want to call it bad, but the downside of it is it's going to put some properties in town that aren't in the potential flood zone into the potential flood zone, which means they may have to get flood insurance. That's going to be expensive, and on and on and on. So that's why one of the reasons we're trying to address that.
So, as I had said at that meeting, the only reason they're doing this is to get more money. Because if you have a mortgage, you are required to have flood insurance
If you're in the flood zone.
if you're in the flood zone. So they are
Who's they?
the
You?
FEMA.
Oh, okay.
It's all controlled by FEMA.
Oh, gotcha.
So they're so short of money, and they owe so much because of all the flooding, especially down south. It's easy to come up here and make these changes. And I totally agree with Jim. It's huge. It's even my neighbor, that's ridiculous to have my neighbor in a flood zone. This is crazy.
And the reason Joe, Z, and I are coming where we're coming from is saying pieces didn't flood in the 36 flood is our families, our parents, lived through the 36 flood.
Mm-hmm.
And their properties, some of their properties are now in the flood zone.
Yeah.
And they said they weren't underwater in the 36 flood. And that was before the dams were built.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not. I don't know the history that well. It was 36. What was that? 100 year? What?
I don't know what flood it was.
I think it was above
It was way more than a 100-year flood.
It's
Okay.
close to the 500 year.
Okay.
I would think.
And okay, but there were these places that they're now wanting to put in the flood zone were not even.
Yeah, because there was two major floods in the last 100 years. The 36 flood, which was really big, and 2 years later there was a 38 flood. The 38 flood wasn't as bad as the 36,
Okay.
but it was still a lot of things underwater. And since then we've had numerous other minor flooding, but after the 38 flood was when they built the dike for 36. They started building the dike around 38, 40, whatever it was, around Hadley. They put the various dams on the Connecticut River. It helped control flooding. So there's much better flood controls available nowadays. And granted, if there was a serious flood, the Aquavita area would definitely be worse. That's where they're talking putting another dike there, but that is so expensive. I can't ever see that happening.
Well, I think they have to really look at what would happen
Yeah.
and the amount of devastation that FEMA would have to pay, which is going to be much more than putting in the dike.
Yeah.
That's the way they have to look at it.
Yeah.
But they're just going for money right now.
Yeah.
To
So
try to pay
anyways,
their
we're
debts.
way off of the topic on this one, but that's just kind of an information for everybody that these are things that are
Yep.
depending
Concerning the
on the outcome of the redrawn FEMA map. There may be some revisions to both bylaw and zone bylaw that might be necessary accordingly, but that'll be
Yeah.
whatever happens when that occurs. Okay.
Now, sorry. Can I just ask though? What is the time frame that you think that might be finalized? Because might that be after we finish this?
Oh, that definitely.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah,
it's
that's
years.
Okay.
Years.
We aren't the only ones fighting
Yeah.
the redrawn map. Almost everybody up and down the valley has
Yeah,
been a
okay.
redrawn map. And it's also other parts. We're not, I mean, this isn't just listed to the Connecticut River Valley, this is across the state. So you've got, the Connecticut, the Deerfield, the areas near Boston, and on and on and on. It's taken them 7 years, 6 years, whatever it was, from the time they first proposed to where we are today. When this will be finalized, we couldn't guess.
Okay. Good to know.
So there's a lot of pushback, and that's the reason why it's
Yeah, you're
extended.
you're dealing with the federal government, and that is a whole nother topic, but you can, enough said. Okay, leave it alone. If that's the case, then anybody else have anything else to bring up?
I've been supposed to get in touch with Mike about abandoned vehicles, and I had been trying even before the override. And so at this point, I guess I think it's important because he had opinions about it, but I haven't been able to get in touch with him, and at this point, I'm not sure if I'll be able to make that happen.
Well,
So-
is that something that you can kind of draft for him, that you don't
Yeah,
have
maybe-
to collaborate
maybe it
with?
is.
You can just draft for him and he can review it?
Yeah, that's probably the best way to go, because I know he had opinions, but I don't know what they were. So maybe I should just take a look and suggest revisions and then give him something to respond to. So
Yeah,
I'm happy to do that. I'll just try
Who are you
that.
dealing with on that?
Mike,
Oh, okay.
yeah, when we had
Mike Spankinable or Mike Mason?
sorry,
Okay.
Mike Spain. When we had done back in May, we had gone through all the bylaws, and I had said I'd do abandoned vehicles, and he said, I should have input on that because he had opinions.
Okay.
I guess I'm not sure what, but
Okay. Okay, if we get some, even, yeah, just put your ideas together and look, when you put out the other two, if you could include that one and at least something to talk about. And we others have our, well, you're probably a year or so plus from where what you have to do.
For the
depending-
wetlands, yeah.
Yeah. And you were working with some of the other town departments to try to get
And
information.
again,
Nobody's commenting back. And if nobody's commenting back, just put out an email to us that says,
Nobody got it.
nobody's saying anything,
So it
and
must be
okay.
it's good, you know, and we'll just have to leave it at that. Because
Yeah,
if
if they don't
nobody's,
like what we
if
do.
nobody has an obvious issue, then nobody has an obvious issue, okay? And it's been documented that nobody's replied back, and so be it, we'll just go forward. So, and then when they complain, well, you never replied. Okay, next
Well, also
week,
going into the individual departments, they might be confused on what is considered a bylaw versus a policy. And I can always add policies to the book
yeah,
that don't have to be bylaws.
Yeah.
So I
Right.
made that point very clear to all of them.
Yeah,
If you want
that-
a policy in there, we can just automatically do that.
yeah,
If it's an actual bylaw, then
yeah.
Do you keep track of like all the committee's policies?
what they give me,
Okay.
Yeah.
I have
That's a
something
good,
for you then.
that's a
they
good
ain't got
one,
no control if they don't give it
Yeah.
to me.
yeah. And different boards have different policies that they keep it to themselves. Like I know, like one of the last times we mentioned that the Board of Health had a policy adopted years ago about not allowing, or if it was this board, the planning board talked about it, about not allowing public septic systems. And that was based on a subdivision that was going in that wanted to put in a communal septic system. Board of Health adopted a policy years ago that says they weren't going to allow a public septic system. It had to be, if you have one, you have one. If you have one, you can't put everybody's into one big system. And I don't know if that was ever put into that policy book, or if that was just something that was kept within, because even the current Board of Health didn't know they had that until we mentioned it to them. And I guess that's the benefit of having some real old timers on the planning board. Anyway, different topic. All right, if that's the case, then nobody has anything else. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.